51 years as voice of the Dodgers. I could go on and on and on, but you all know this man's great legacy, and his golden voice started back in 1950, and the voice of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Vin Scully. Hi, Vinny.
Thank you, Bill. Nice to be here, and especially with these two other remarkable young men.
I would concur wholeheartedly. Right. Next to him, 41 years now as a voice of the Los Angeles Lakers, and also a member of the Hall of Fame. In fact, only 3 broadcasters in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and he's one of them. Old Golden Throat, Francis Chick Hearn. Hi, Chick.
I've been very lucky to know people like these and to be associated with the great sports fans of Southern California and around the country. And when you're with an organization that comes up with 7 world championships, it makes it a lot easier. We all know that. Mm-hmm. Always have a superstar or more. That makes our broadcast a lot easier.
Absolutely.
Bob Miller, here he is. I work with him quite often on King's telecast, he and Jimmy Fox. And in fact, Bob is the most recent inductee into the Hall of Fame. In fact, it was just a couple of weeks ago that Bob was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. And so congratulations for that. In 28 years now, the puppy of the group, Bob Miller.
I feel like a failure. I've only been around 28 years, but it's great to be here, and it is a real pleasure for me to be here with these two gentlemen who really set the standard. When I came out here and I would listen to Chick, and Chick's responsible for me being here. It only took him 2 years to convince Mr. Cook that I should be here. He turned him down the first year, but the second year he got it done. And then Vin, and to come out and hear them and know that you have that kind of standard to live up to, and I'm honored to be in their presence.
Chick, take us back. What kind of a sports fan were you growing up, and when did you realize that this is the profession that I really want to be involved with?
Never happened. Never happened.
Now, what was then? Did you just stumble
when I was
upon
in
it?
service overseas in Manila, I did a little bit of broadcasting on a small station. You couldn't hear it across the street, but that was baseball. And then I came home and went to work selling pharmaceuticals. I was a pretty good salesman. And one night I got a call, the man that owned a small station just outside of Chicago. Would you do a high school basketball game for me tonight? My announcer's sick. You've been a referee for several years. We're a good player. No, I wouldn't do that. I'd be scared to death. He said, I'll sit with you. I said, what good's that going to do? He said, I'll be with you. You'll feel comfortable. So I did the thing. He called me the next day. I'd like to hire you full-time on the station. I said, my God, I've got a good job at the pharmaceutical company. Anyway, he talked me into it. In 10 years, I made Los Angeles. Very fortunate. I was in the right spot, right time, always doing all sports, not just basketball.
Yeah, and knowing after you got on the air that this is something that you couldn't kind of live with. It's tough to walk away once you get once you absolutely get the excitement of this. You just
it beats working.
Isn't that right, Vinny?
Well, actually, and I don't know why, I was 8 years old, and I was writing a composition for the good nuns in grammar school, What You Want to Be. And most of the boys wanted to be firemen or policemen or priests, and the girls wanted to be nurses and ballerinas and things like that. And I wrote that I wanted to be a sports announcer. Well, what makes that rather remarkable, in those days, the only thing we had was a college football game on the network. There was no local broadcast. There was nothing. And somehow, listening to the roar of the crowd over some game that meant absolutely nothing to a kid growing up in New York, but it touched a nerve, it did something, and that was the beginning for me.
Amazing.
Yes, 8 years old.
Wow.
No idea.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I think I knew early on that I wanted to do something in sports. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. Played a couple of years in college. I shouldn't say I played. I found my perfect spot in the dugout to get a nice tan because I was hardly ever in the game. But playing Little League Baseball, I would kind of do the play-by-play as the game was going on that I was playing in. And I grew up listening to Bob Elson and Jack Brickhouse in Chicago, and Lloyd Pettit was doing the Blackhawks and doing some baseball as well. And I just remember thinking, if I couldn't be a professional athlete, what a great place to be every day would be the ballpark or the arena or the hockey rink or something, and be involved in that. And that's the way my interest started and continued.
You won't believe this.
Tell
This
me.
guy called me up one day from Wisconsin. Said, I'm Bob Miller. I do University of Wisconsin hockey, and I hear you're looking for an announcer. And I was hiring the announcer. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I'd like to have you the job. And I said, well, send me a tape. He sent me a tape, and it was pretty darn good. But I just threw it in the drawer. And about 2 weeks later, we're playing in Chicago, and I come down from my room, thought I'd have a nice quiet breakfast, and sitting in the lobby as this guy gets up and says, I'm Bob Miller. I sent you my tape. I said, oh, I remember, I got it. It's really good. Anyway, in order to get rid of him, I hired him.